Now look at that beautiful tree, and the smell here at the Lacoste Garden Center is amazing. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mira Bahadusing, and we are here learning about the perfect Christmas tree. Now I, of course, like a lot of people, haven't been able to get into the Christmas spirit yet because of the no snow situation. But what do people need to know when they're looking for the perfect tree?
Yeah, it's been an odd year with the holiday season this year, and we need the snow. We've got a little bit of it, and the temperatures are starting to plunge, so we're seeing that interest in people coming out for their trees now. And there are a few things to know, and first of all, that's the trees. How long do they last? And that'll be the biggest question. These are fresh cut trees, and so it's with that name, fresh cut. They have been cut for several weeks already, but they are cut when they're dormant. The water is stored in it, and we've kept them really cold as we could with the conditions that we had. So they're ready to go now inside. And what's the most important part with keeping that tree alive in your home and nice and fresh is that cut that you make. After you purchase the tree, we'll put a fresh cut into it if you're going to be setting it up that day, or if you're taking it home. Prior to you setting it up, you have to put that fresh cut, and it's the same idea as if you've got fresh cut flowers. You make a fresh cut in there. That way, all the cells that have calloused over, they can't absorb the water. So you've freed that up, can absorb the water again and go into the tree. And the trees will use a lot of water. You have to check them every day, and you'll find they'll maybe go through 1 or 2 liters of water a day. So if you know they're using water, that's going to be a good sign. That tree will last you. So these trees that we have here, some of them are better, some of them are others for their longevity.
Yeah.
And we'll start here on our left. And 2 of the trees here, there's going to be a Scotch Pine and a White Pine. Both of them are long needled. These are going to be our 2 long needled varieties. Both of them, that's probably where their similarities end on that. The Scotch Pine it is long needled. The needles are prickly. If you go on and put your hand on them, you'll notice that they're going to be kind of prickly on there. You can have a bit of a sharp edge on that. The branches are very strong, so if you're hanging decorations on the Scotch Pine, they will be able to take heavier decorations and lights on them. They'll support that very, very well, but it's not our most popular tree anymore. There are a few things about the Scotch Pine. It tends not to be as straight, the trunk, so you got to have a good stand to be able to support the trunk so that it will keep it steady and stable. And it doesn't have the greatest fragrance. Initially, when you bring them in, they'll smell great, but as it goes a day or two, you won't notice a fragrance on it. So that's the Scotch Pine. That's a tree that when I was a kid was popular. Those were our choices of Scotch Pine and black spruce. Now we have White Pine. And this White Pine is something, put your hands on here. You got to get hands on it. White Pine, as opposed to the Scotch Pine, is soft.
Yes, definitely.
It's very soft, and it's hard to ever describe a tree as being soft. This tree is soft.
So can this hold decorations?
No,
Okay.
it can't. It can hold decorations, but they should be much lighter. It still is a popular tree because of the texture and the look that it gives. Some people, for their interior decorating, it suits perfectly for what they want to do in the decorations they have. But otherwise, it doesn't take the strong decorations or heavier decorations, but the needles, it holds its needles really well, so there's very little mess involved with this tree, so it'll last easily throughout the Christmas season as well. So that's the Scotch Pine. Those are our 2 Scotch or White Pines. Scotch Pine, White Pine are 2 long needle varieties. Then we'll head down into the fir family, and the rest of the trees are all going to be part of the fir family, and they are the more dominant varieties of popularity that we use for Christmas trees. Grand Fir, not the most popular, but it's notable for a few things. It's a long needled balsam, and when we look at the other balsams, this has almost twice as long leaves on it, and the leaves actually remind me, if you look at the native balsams that we have in Manitoba, it's more similar to the native type, but they're not related really at all, but it looks more similar to that. It's very dense, very thick, kind of a fat looking tree when you look at them, and all of them tend to have kind of that fat look to them, so a lot of people like that look and can go in there. And it'll hold its needles really well throughout the season. Again, you're putting that fresh cut in them. It's going to hold the needles very well. It has a little bit of a different fragrance to it. It's almost a little citrusy when you have that, when you smell it, when you first smell them. And it will hold its fragrance throughout the holiday season too. And I'll give you a tip in just a moment how to bring that fragrance out later on as well.
Very cool.
So that's the Grand Fir. Then we'll move on to probably easily our 3rd most popular type of tree, and it's gaining in popularity each year, and it's the Noble Fir. And again, it's a fir, needles being held right down to the center of the plant. But what's unique about the noble fir is that, as I talked earlier, it's the perfect tree if you don't want a perfect tree. All
A
of
little
it,
Charlie Brown
yeah,
look.
yeah, well, but it's not quite Charlie Brown. It has its own character. The other trees, all of these trees are, of course, grown in the nursery, and they're going to be sheared. But the way that the noble fir grows, it requires less shearing. It's naturally in this form, so you don't get that real preening look to it. It's just the way it grows. So it's not absolutely perfect. So you got a hole like this. You've got layers in between the branches, and every tree is different. If you look at the rest of the noble firs that we have, each one is different. They have their own character, and some trees you look at and you figure, who is going to take that tree? And the next person comes in, and that's exactly what I was looking for. And people like the noble fir because of its irregularities to it, and so it's a great tree for that. Again, a balsam lasts for a long time, easily lasts through the Christmas season. Fragrance is not as strong as some of the other balsams, but it still is good, and nice straight trunk on them, so they set up in the stand really easy.
Okay.
Now, the second last tree we have here is the balsam fir. That most people will be familiar with the balsam fir, and this one is more of a lightly sheared, so it's still a little bit more open, but you can see how much thicker it is compared to the noble, and that's because of the shearing that takes place on it. And the balsam firs give you, it's by far our most popular tree. It gives you great needle retention. It has great fragrance on it. The trunks are generally very, very straight, so they set up in your stands really easy. And with that fragrance, I was telling you a little tip about keeping it going. With the fragrance on the balsam fir, if you can have just a little mist your tree down.
And that will rejuvenate
just
the smell?
moisture on it helps bring up the fragrance again. So if you got company coming over, it's like having baking in the oven. Well, go spray your tree and make it smell a little bit better. And you can do that with the balsams. It brings that out. And balsams, they good branching for decorations. You can tell it's a bit thicker though, right? So you've got to have the right type of decorations. If you have lots of things that hang, sometimes they're not the best. So that's why it's nice to have different choices in the trees when you come to the garden center. Now the last tree is the Fraser Fir, and this is the premium tree, and this is my personal favorite. I love the Fraser Fir, and I've got it for years, and I'll always keep going back to it just because it performs so well. Green with that silver look underneath. I like that two-tone color to it that you get on a Fraser Fir. The branches are thicker on it, so they do support heavier branching, or heavier decorations on it, so they do support that. And again, that characteristic of the firs is that they're all nice and thick right to the inside. Fragrance on this thing is outstanding, and the needle retention is outstanding. So it still is the premium tree. It's my favorite one out there, and I still see the colors on it. So
beautiful.
So if you're standing on and looking at the tree, it looks one way. If you sit down, you're going to see a bit more underside. You'll see a bit more of that color coming through on it. So I just love the Fraser Fir for that. So.
Yeah, and I know, Dwayne, for me personally, when I'm looking for a tree, I know that smell is important, and then also the messy factor. I hate cleaning up after needles. I know you guys have a new solution this year.
Well, it's not necessarily a new solution, but it's one that we haven't promoted too much, but it's really a practical solution. It's just a tree bag, and it's a great big garbage bag, and you put this onto the tree before. If you look underneath the tree now, it's just folded away neatly there, and when everybody gives me all my gifts that I have under the tree for mine, I get thousands of them, right? You can't see the tree bag underneath there. It's hidden away, but it's rolled up underneath there. But I put the tree bag on before I put it in the stand. So outside, when I'm putting it in the stand, I'll put the tree into the bag, and I'll put the stand on outside. So any mess, any needles that drop is going to happen out there. Then once I get it into the stand, then I can just simply go around the tree. And lift up the bag. Now the only hole in the bag is that bottom where the trunk comes through, and so the tree is easy to handle to bring in, not dropping any needles all over the place, and taking out too. I'll set up the tree, it'll get rolled down to the bottom. Then after the Christmas season is over, undecorate the tree, roll up the bag, take it back outside, and it's ready to go, and it really cuts down on the mess on that, which is a big thing. With people who like to recycle their trees, please take the plastic off. They love to use the trees for mulch, but they don't mulch the plastic. So that should come off before you bring it to the recycle depot with that. And that makes it really easy and clean.
Wow, very cool. And one thing that I've noticed here at Lacoste is that you guys have a unique way to display your trees, because it's tough when you're shopping, they all sort of blend together, but here they're all hanging. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, if you right behind us is all the trees and it goes off into another greenhouse. It's a very unique system that we use, and a very practical one as well. You can see the trees from 360 degrees, you can spin them around, you can walk through them, so you can see the kind of plant that you're going to be having in your house, the size, and there's no guesswork. And we're out of the wind. It's not warm in here, it's nice and cold the way it should be, but you're out of the wind at least, so it's always a lot more comfortable and to come in here, whether it's during the day or in the evening hours.
Okay, perfect. And just to recap, sort of the Coles Notes version, Tree 101, what is the best tree for smell and the best for decorations, the strength of the branches?
Well, I'll always go back to the Balsam Fir and the Fraser Fir here. Those will be my two top choices for fragrance, smell, and longevity.
Okay, and so if someone's watching right now and they want to come down and get more information, what's the best way to do
Well,
that?
they can come and see us at Lacoste Garden Centre. We're at 2787 St. Mary's Road, and we're here all the time now during the Christmas season, so you can come down and take a look and see if we can pick out a tree for you.